So I was doing my post-race gym work that I usually do on Mondays, my little live stream. And if you're about, you might have recognised that I came up with a video idea. Roll VT. That part of his race, if you could assemble the perfect, in terms of starts, I feel like Giovinazzi, I'd pick him for starts. Actually, that's a great video idea. Well done, Tommo. I'll write that down. Yeah, actually, I don't have a video idea for this week, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to assemble my create my perfect Formula 1 driver based on all the different facets. Look, listen, there's 1,700 of you on there, so if someone else does this video idea before I do, then you know that they've stolen it. And I've got 1,700 of you to back me up, all right? And so here we are. I'm doing that exact video. I'm assembling my perfect Formula 1 driver. You could talk about tyre management, you could talk about personality, you could talk about race pace, whatever, right? We're going through all of the ones I've identified. I've identified 16 different individual traits. Looking at all of the 2020 drivers, that's the only rule for this video. I'm just keeping it to the 2020 current grid, just because it makes it a bit easier to manage, you know what I mean? And a bit easier for you lot to get involved as well. So, the first thing I've identified that's important in a driver is their ability to help with car development. You know, the feedback process is all very, very important to help teams grow and develop a really good car. That's why you need experience. I've picked Mr. Kimi Räikkönen. He's very to the point. He's more experienced than any other driver in F1 history. What engineers want is someone who's to the point, says exactly what they want, when they want it. Kimi's your man, you know? So he's the first part of my perfect F1 driver. On to qualifying. Who's got the quali pace in my perfect F1 driver? Now, again, I'll preface, it would be easy for me to just say Lewis Hamilton to every single one of these, because you could argue that is possibly the way to go. But I'm picking Mr. George Russell. He's got a perfect record of qualifying against his teammates. Still, to this day, it's like 30, 31 races. I don't even know, I lose track. I think he's rapid over a lap. Yes, he hasn't had the chance to prove it in a top car, but do I think he would do it in a top car? Yes, I do. On to starts, and well, this is where the video idea itself came from. Antonio Giovinazzi. Absolutely slap starts. He might start quite far back because his quali pace isn't that great, and that Alfa Romeo, maybe it's not built for qualifying, whatever, but he always seems to gain mad levels of positions at the starts of races. Absolute king of starts. There's some other people up there. Obviously, Carlos Sainz is very good at starts, typically. Lewis tends to be pretty good at starts, obviously. But my pick is Antonio Giovinazzi. Now, you've started. As your racecraft, well, I'm going with Daniel Ricciardo, the king of late braking. If I had to pick anyone for racecraft, ability to battle hard but fair, I'm going with Daniel Ricciardo. Race pace, it's got to be Lewis Hamilton, isn't it? Come on. What more do I say? Lewis is one of the greatest of all time. I'm not saying the greatest anymore because it is impossible to compare, but he has to be up there in the conversation, and his race pace has always been different gravy. Who am I backing to deliver in wet conditions? I'm going for Mr. Carlos Sainz. Now, of course, his father, Carlos Sainz Sr., well-documented talent when it comes to rally driving, off-road, still doing it up to this day. Carlos has always been decent in wet pace. We saw that at Portimao when the track was a bit greasy. Yes, he had soft tyres that were warmed up probably a bit better, but still his skill set that he really prides himself on, you know, being good in those kind of conditions because he knows his dad would be proud of him, which is very sweet. Now, of course, tyre management is essential in Formula 1. Those 4 contact patches is all you've got at the end of the day. It's got to be Lewis again, hasn't it? Lewis has always excelled in managing his tyres and extracting that pace when he needs it. We look at Portimao, prime example. You know, Valtteri and Lewis in the same car, yet Lewis was just able to just nurse those tyres so much more effectively. Yes, I know, tyres are gone, funny, great joke. Now, in terms of having a good team player is always important. Yes, of course, you want a driver who's going to excel at the top and not have to worry about team orders too much, but when push comes to shove, and it will happen, I would go for, well, I've put Carlos Sainz / Lando Norris here because I just think those two, I want that camaraderie there from at least this perfect driver. I want that level of camaraderie that those two have. work so well together, and it will be a great shame that they're split up next year. I'm sure Daniel Ricciardo will be fine at McLaren though. But yeah, in terms of teamwork, camaraderie, I want the McLaren duo. How does this driver handle it under the pressure? Because of course, high pressure scenarios. Now again, you could throw loads of drivers out here, but I'm going with someone who's recently to me really delivered in terms of working under pressure and recovering and pulling a situation around. I'm going Pierre Gasly. Not only has he gone through that horrific situation at Red Bull, come back kicking and screaming this year, that win at Monza, Carlos Sainz was right up his chuff pretty much the last 3 laps. And for Pierre to just not make a single mistake, knowing what was on the line, I cannot begin to imagine how that must have felt those last few laps of Pierre. But he kept a cool head, smashed it, and still my driver of the year, Pierre Gasly. All right, so let's move away from the racing and look at their celebrations, you know, post-race after they've got a win, how they celebrate. I'm going with Seb Vettel. Seb is just so evocative and emotional when he wins, when he performs. I love it. I love it. You watch it when he was dominating. Every win meant a lot to him, you know. There's loads of examples of Seb being great banter on the podium. So I picked Sebastian Vettel for my celebration. All right, now onto looks. Right, chiseled jawline, handsome. Charles Leclerc. What a beautiful man he is. Come on. Although my missus actually finds Vettel and then Verstappen the best looking, which I find bizarre, and Charles is nowhere near. Each their own, I suppose. Personality next, and well, there's only one man for the job, isn't there? Daniel Ricciardo. His smile, his attitude, his demeanour lights up the paddock. Imagine if we had 20 Daniel Ricciardos. I mean, maybe that would be a bit much. I don't know. It's nice having the combination of characters like Ricciardo and then characters like Raikkonen and characters like Lewis and characters like Lando. You know, it mixes it up, which is nice. So I wouldn't want to see 20 Daniel Ricciardos. That would be a bit much. But my driver would have Daniel Ricciardo's personality because his personality is just beautiful. Passion. Very important. This is a sport at the end of the day. It's a spectator sport. And again, I've got to go with Seb. It's kind of links to celebration as well. But Seb's passion, not just in the way that he expresses himself at the races, when he performs well, how much he loves motorsport. The amount of times, you know, Seb will just be sitting there watching the cars go by, just a little smile on his face, and his car collection. He bought, I think it was Mansell's old Williams, was it, recently? He's clearly a very, very passionate man about motorsport. He really, the art form to it, he loves. I want my driver to have the same passion and desire and something in there that Seb's got. Financial backing is a very important part of motorsport. It's an expensive thing, you know, and having sponsors behind you that are going to bankroll and help you, you know, develop moving forward is always going to stand you in good stead because it's always going to help you get a seat. So I'm going with Sergio Perez's financial backing. Claro, Telcel and Telmex supported him. Is essentially supported by the Mexican government. Is a huge face in Mexico, is Sergio, and to have that kind of backing, I wouldn't turn that down. You know, again, I'm team principal. This is my perfect driver. And I'm like, well, got all this money, you know. Last two now, and in terms of PR, so in terms of, you know, comes across well to all the brands, but also shows a bit of personality, isn't too edgy, too out there. I'm going with Mr. Lando Norris. He's got the perfect blend of very brand friendly, I feel, but also is himself, and not even on purpose, not even because he's too straight and narrow, you know what I mean? He's still himself, but PR dream, mate. And then last but by no means least, what does the driver choose when they're on their socials? You know, what do they post? And I was considering, you know, Kimi, again, and I've mentioned him a few times. He did an Instagram post and called it Kimala, and he just kept it up because it's Kimi, I don't care. But for mine, I'm going for Daniel Ricciardo again. You can tell that he's doing all his Instagram posts. He's doing all his tweets. He's behind all that because it's just very Daniel Ricciardo, what he posts and tweets. And I just love the man. He's an amazing human being. Some of you may be shocked that Alex hasn't featured in here at all because he is my favourite driver. Because he's from my area and he just comes across as very wholesome and nice. And I just have an affinity with him, you know. I could connect with the lad. So that's why I like him. But in terms of my perfect driver, that's all 16 bases ticked. Of course, this is mine. But what about yours? Let me know in the comments below. Actually, I will pin a comment which will have every single thing. So you can just copy that, paste it, and then put yours at the end to make it a bit easier for you. So thank you for watching. The sun's just gone in. Oh no, it's come back out again. My name's Tommo. This is the Tommo F1 YouTube channel. Thank you very much as ever again for watching. Have a good one.